It's over. After more than 200 years of searching, the History Channel has confirmed the impossible. The Oak Island treasure is no longer a myth. The Lagina brothers and their team have finally broken the curse, uncovering something that will rewrite the history books. What they found beneath the island's surface is more incredible than anyone ever dared to imagine. The tipping point. For centuries, Oak Island guarded its secrets with a cold, unforgiving grip. But today, the dam of mystery has finally burst. The pieces of a puzzle 229 years in the making are snapping into place with breathtaking speed. And truth be told, it's all happening at once. The long-lost treasure, once a whisper of legend, is no longer a question of if, but where. And now we know where. It all started coming together in the swamp. For years, the team considered it a natural feature, but new technology painted a very different picture. Jeremy's state-of-the-art conductivity survey lit up with deep red colors at the northern tip, screaming that something with a high metallic presence was buried down there. This wasn't just a random piece of metal. The location perfectly matched old stories of the infamous Jack Adams box, a container rumored to hold priceless artifacts. One of those could be that box. Would a metal box give you that anomaly? For sure. Yeah. The team's excitement was off the charts. This was a solid scientific lead pointing to a man-made object hidden in the muck. At the exact same time, a different kind of breakthrough was happening at the Money Pit. The team sent a sonar scanner down borehole L15 and the images that came back were stunning. 150 feet below the surface, they found a massive void. This was no natural cave. The sonar showed a huge linear cavity with distinct, well-defined walls. It was an opening, a big one. It looked just like the legendary offset chamber, a secret room built to hide the main treasure vault from searchers. They were staring at a man-made tunnel, a secret passage designed to lead to something monumental. But that's not all. On Lot 10, ground-penetrating radar confirmed a wild theory that researcher Fred Nolan had years ago, that Oak Island was once two separate islands. The radar revealed a massive buried structure that looked exactly like a man-made dam system. It all made sense. Someone had built a dam to create the swamp, turning two islands into one, all to hide something of incredible value. The swamp wasn't a natural obstacle. It was the lid on a treasure chest. The metal box, the underground tunnel, and the man-made swamp. It was a perfect storm of evidence pointing to a single explosive conclusion. Some sort of writing on it, but couldn't make it out. The treasure was real and it was right under their feet. The clues were no longer scattered. They were converging, pointing like arrows to a single hidden truth that was about to be dragged into the light. Just when the physical evidence was becoming overwhelming, a discovery from the past blew the case wide open. The team brought in researcher Zena Halpern, who presented two ancient maps that were, to put it mildly, complete game changers. One map incredibly dated all the way back to 1179, proving that Oak Island was known and charted long before modern history. A mysterious dot on this map labeled Rodong immediately sparked theories about Henry Sinclair's famous expedition in 1398 in his legendary connection to the Knights Templar. But the real bombshell was a French map from 1347. It was covered in cryptic French words like entrée, anchor, and varna, valve. No one knew exactly what they meant in this context, but they were clearly instructions of some kind. For Rick and Marty Laginina, these maps weren't just old pieces of paper. They were the key. The Templar connection, which had always been a strong theory, suddenly felt more real than ever. Could ancient knights have built a secret stronghold right here on the island? With newfound urgency, the team hatched a plan. They decided to overlay Zena's ancient maps onto modern high-resolution satellite images of Oak Island. It was a tense process comparing the centuries-old drawings to the island's current layout. But then it happened. The old map lined up almost perfectly with the island's borders and features. And then they saw it. A strange bright spot on both the old map and the new satellite image. It was located right near Dave Blankenship's house, an area of intense interest for years. Jack Begley, ever the optimist, pointed out the obvious. The bright spot on both maps looked like a hole. A literal hole. Could this be it? The entrance they had been searching for all this time. Skepticism melted away, replaced by a thrilling sense of hope. This wasn't a wild goose chase anymore. They had a target, a specific location pinpointed by centuries-old evidence and modern technology. They had to start digging right there, right now. The team gathered their equipment and moved to the spot, their hearts pounding with anticipation. Their shovels bit into the earth, each scoop removing another layer of soil and time, getting them closer to an answer. And then, with a jarring clank that echoed across the island, a shovel hit something hard, something that wasn't rock or root. The sound of metal on metal sent a jolt of electricity through the entire crew. This was it. The digging, which had been frantic, now became slow and deliberate. With brushes and small trowels, they carefully cleared away the dirt, their hands shaking. Slowly, a flat rectangular shape began to emerge from the ground. "Well, let's get stuck in there, mate." It was covered in dirt and rust, clearly ancient, but it was unmistakably a door. There it was, right where the map said it would be, the hatch. The team gathered around staring in silent awe. After all the years, all the dead ends, all the money spent, they had found a hidden door beneath the island. It was a surreal moment, a cocktail of pure joy and chilling fear. What was on the other side? Was it the treasure they had dreamed of, or was it another one of the island's cruel traps? Marty, ever the pragmatist, insisted they proceed with extreme caution. They swept the area with metal detectors, which buzzed erratically, confirming something was definitely down there, but giving no clear picture. The moment of truth arrived. It took the combined strength of several team members to get a grip on the heavy corroded hatch. They pulled and strained, and with a loud, groaning creak of protesting metal, the hatch began to lift. Inch by agonizing inch, they raised the door, peeling back a secret that had been sealed for centuries. As they finally heaved it open, a wave of cool, damp air washed over them, carrying the scent of deep earth and decay. They peered into the opening and were met with a yawning black void that seemed to swallow the light. It took a moment for their eyes to adjust, but then they saw it. A set of stone steps, worn smooth by time and covered in moss, led straight down into the darkness. The steps looked ancient, and they disappeared into an inky blackness that promised answers and danger in equal measure. They had breached the island's defenses. They had found a way in. Flashlights clicked on, cutting sharp beams into the oppressive dark as the team prepared to descend into the heart of the mystery, the Chamber of Whispers. One by one, the team carefully made their way down the slippery stone steps. The beams from their flashlights danced across rough honeyed stone walls, and the air grew colder and heavier with each step they took. The narrow stairway opened into a long corridor that twisted ahead of them, disappearing into the darkness. The only sound was the steady drip 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 of water echoing through the passage. A sound that seemed to be counting down the seconds to a major revelation. The sense of anticipation was almost unbearable. They were walking through a place that had been sealed off from the world for hundreds of years. Finally, the corridor opened up into a larger chamber. The room was surprisingly spacious with a high arched ceiling. The walls were covered in strange markings and symbols that nobody recognized. It was clear this place was ancient, a sacred or important room built by the island's original secret keepers. The air felt heavy with history. In the center of the chamber sat a large stone table. Lying on its dusty surface were several objects. There were old yellowed scrolls, their edges frayed with age, and next to them were several small, intricately carved wooden chests. The symbols carved into the chest matched the ones on the walls. With trembling hands, they moved closer. This was it, the moment of truth. "I think we found a cup coin." "Okay. And if it is a cup coin, mate, it's sure." I'm getting bum swizzle, mate." They carefully lifted the lid of the first chest. Inside, nestled on a bed of rotted fabric, were coins, old gold coins gleaming in the flashlight beams as if they had been minted yesterday. A wave of pure elation washed over the team. It was proof. Tangible, heavy, glittering proof. The treasure was real. They had found it. It wasn't the massive hoard of pirate lore. Not yet. But it was a start. It was more than anyone had found in over 2 centuries. But as they celebrated, their lights fell upon something else at the far end of the room. It was another doorway. This one sealed shut with a massive solid stone slab. It was clear that the gold was just an appetizer. The main course, the real secret of Oak Island, lay just beyond that door. The discovery of the gold coins was incredible. But the sealed stone door promised something even bigger. It took every ounce of their collective strength using levers and brute force, but eventually the heavy slab began to move with a deep grinding sound that vibrated through the chamber. They managed to shift it just enough to squeeze through. What they found on the other side left them completely speechless. They had entered another chamber, smaller than the first, but filled with something far more valuable than gold. The walls were lined with wooden shelves, and on those shelves sat dozens upon dozens of small, intricately carved boxes. Each box was a unique work of art, and they seemed to hold stories from a forgotten time. The team moved through the room in a daze, their flashlights illuminating a treasure trove of historical artifacts that was beyond their wildest dreams. This wasn't just a treasure. It was a collection, a library of secrets. Someone centuries ago had gone to extraordinary lengths to gather these precious items and hide them away from the world. Was it the Knights Templar hiding their sacred relics from persecution? Was it Francis Bacon's lost manuscripts? Or was it the personal jewels of Marie Antoinette? The questions were endless, but for the first time, the answers felt within reach. As they started looking closely at what was inside the old boxes, the team could hardly believe what they were seeing. There were ancient scrolls with strange writing, tools used for navigation that didn't belong to that time, and objects that seemed to connect people from totally different parts of the world. It was like a secret piece of history had just come back to life. This wasn't just any old treasure find. This was something that could change everything we thought we knew about the past. The room they were in was quiet, but their hearts were racing. They carefully took notes, took pictures, and tried to figure out how all these strange items ended up buried in the same place. The more they looked, the more they realized this was only the beginning. They hadn't reached the end of the mystery. Not even close. Yes, they had found gold and jewels. But the most valuable thing they found was the truth. A truth that someone long ago tried to bury and hide from the world. And now, after centuries of guessing and digging, that truth was finally starting to rise. When the team finally stepped back into the sunlight, they weren't the same people who had gone underground. They had seen something that most people only dream about. They had touched history with their own hands. But they knew something even bigger. The search wasn't over. In fact, it was just getting started. Oak Island had finally revealed one of its biggest secrets, but the island was still hiding more. Much more. The so-called curse was no longer stopping them. Now they had proof that the stories were real and they were ready to keep digging. Did the Templars leave something so powerful behind that it had to be hidden forever? Let us know. Hit like and subscribe for more.